Hello, it's me, and I'm going to go through the solve of this 5-layer axis cube, also called axle cube. So this takes its place on the table of a whole series of axis cubes, starting with, of course, the 3-layer version of it. This is one that I've already shown. Basically, as a modification, it is a supercube, which means that it shapeshifts, and orientation has a lot of meaning with this. So this is actually one of my more favorite of the mods. Then, of course, there's the 4-layer version of it over here. Same kind of thing, where it basically acts like a 4-layer version. So you have problems with parity issues, you have problems with everything that happens with a reduction from even to odd, and then of course there is the 5-layer version if we want to get that lined up. Now, just like with the cubes, this represents kind of the extreme of cube engineering. It moves much the same way, except in 5 layers, but just like cubes have like an Olsing effect, this has something like that. You can see that we've sort of had to skew the shape here a little bit. We'll kind of put that in a direction that maybe you can see it a little bit better. This is actually the white version. Here's a black version over here. If I can scramble my way through it. So you can see kind of where things line up regarding the shape over here. Now there's another version that I have, which is this big monster, as you've seen. This one I have scrambled and I have solved. I like this because it kind of fits the classic shape here. In order to get the non-Olsing effect, you had to you had to do a little bit of a, let's put this all in the same color here. You had to really increase the size of this beast, like so. This guy is obviously a lot more portable, a lot more, a little less gainly in terms of its size. So this is the one that I'm going to be demonstrating. Now, as a 5-layer puzzle, what I want to bring out with this series, this 5-layer series, is basically a lot of the pitfalls and pratfalls that happen with 5 layers. So in addition to having a seat at the table with these guys, we also have the basic technique of our standard 5-layer puzzles. And that's the process of reduction, reducing this. But it's not exactly like just a 5-layer, it's actually a supercube. So it has more in common with this guy than with this guy over here, in that orientation means something. Now, as we're doing a reductive strategy, the question of parity comes about. However, my main contention is that this is an odd-layer puzzle, which means issues of parity aren't quite the same as you'd get with the 4-layer version. So as we start off with a scramble here, what makes this so difficult is that there's definitely a learning curve when it comes to figuring out the orientation of this guy. It's a very well put together puzzle. This was made by the same guy who brought forth to me the Ghost Cube. It does a lot of modifications. It almost has a metallic feel to it, but the quality is really, really good. But when you get orientation, once it's scrambled, it's a big jumble, and sometimes it's hard to figure out where your sides are and where it isn't. I mean, I can analyze it in a solved state and see that all of these guys are my middles over here. Just like if I make a turn over here, here's a middle, edge, 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 corner, corner, corner. And same thing here if I make a turn over here. Now we have middle, 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 middle. So we have 2 that looks like that. And our edges need to be reduced from here, and we have a corner here. Well, if I extend it to this area over here, you can see that my middles have become this gargantuan beast, where I have 2 components that look just like this over here, whereas I had like 1.5. So 2 components over here, but these guys all become part of that center as well. So this whole unit here is a center. I have all of these edges that have to be reduced, and of course the corners always remain the same. Corner, corner, corner. 3 of the corners basically seem to have a symmetric shape. This one with 1 color, this one has 3 colors. Now, I'll tell you that we experienced a lot of issues with what I'd call false equivocation when you have something that looks the same in all directions. But the interesting thing is we found out with the hexagonal dipyramidal 5-layer is the actual unique configuration of this comes out with that. In the 4-layer hexagonal dipyramid, it looked like you had that equivalency. Same thing with the 3-layer, but with the 5-layer, you could actually see that the rotation mattered with this, and that's going to be brought out with these with unique configurations of these 5-layer puzzles. So, as part of the learning curve, we can start moving it in various directions, but we have to memorize or remember which ones are our centers and which ones are not, because it's going to be very difficult to figure out where do I move. So how do I move it from here? Where do I, So what I have to do is I have to identify where my centers are. So let's say I put this over here, so I realize my centers are over here. And then I have to slowly inch my way into finding a way to move it. So scrambling this is challenging as well. So you can see here's one scrambled side. Once I get that rolling, I can get that rolling over here. But I've got to be careful because now I need to try to identify where the sides are, because this type of shape shifting, you still have retained the proper configuration of your sides. Centers are where they're supposed to be, edges are where they're supposed to be. So it's not like the cuboid shape shifting where you completely obliterate that and you're just doing 90-degree turns. This one, you do maintain your edge here. See, right now it's unclear to me how to turn this. I have to line these things up just right, and this is kind of part of the training process. And once I do line it up just right, make sure that a corner is not where an edge is supposed to be and vice versa, then maybe I can get this rolling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to tease this out, get myself a good scramble, and you'll see what I mean. But it is going to take a little bit of a sort of a self-training process to figure out exactly how this is supposed to turn. The movement is excellent. Once you have it lined up, the turning is seamless. The problem is getting it to that place where it can turn seamlessly, getting it lined up. See, already I'm just kind of trying to fish around for where it's supposed to turn. All right, well then I will see. Okay, so now I can turn this over here. Bring it across over here. Okay, so I'm going to come back at this with a fully scrambled puzzle. Abracadabra. Okay, so this is a fully scrambled 5-layer axis cube. Now, what I was doing is after a while, once I found an area that can move, is I would just make sure that it would match my corners up. So say I wanted to do a 90-degree turn here and then move it again, I'd see that the corner's here, and if I moved it through here, I'd do it until the next corner appears where this was, so bang, right over here. And I know that once I did that, I can still move this this other layer over here if I could move it before. Yeah, there it goes. So now I'll just move it again until this corner appears here. And once I do that, then I could continually do the movements that I had to do. So that's how I was able to kind of work my way through it. This represents an interesting breed in solvability, because not only do you have to get it back to the cube form, solve it with all the colors in place, but you have to figure out how to move it as well. And we've seen the jumble that this axis cube becomes, a 3-layer, but this represents a jumble within a jumble. So it provides that degree of extra challenge. So I'm going to kind of dive my way into this and see how we can tame this thing. It's a very entertaining puzzle, but it is difficult just from the standpoint of perspective. But that's why we get these mods, right? An issue with perspective. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll first work on this center over here. Now each area has its own fixed center, being a 5-layer. So this. So I can use at least that as a basis of comparison should I run into trouble with moving this. So I've got this red one over here. I have this other red and white one here. So as you can see, this comes nicely and fits over here. So what comes over here is another white one, but not this one. This one doesn't seem to fit too well. So let's find another one, perhaps this one here. I'm going to first look and see if it fits. Doesn't seem to fit from that angle. So maybe there's another white one that goes right next to the center that I can use. And maybe this one over here. So this is going to take some turning over here. So you can see it turns very freely once I have things matched up. Move this over here, turn it down. Does this fit? Yeah, that fits just fine. So what I'm going to do, I'll just keep that here for now, is I need to put this in and match it up with this. So I'm going to turn it, keeping in mind that I have to make sure that I turn it appropriately so I can turn it back. So this turns down like so. Turn it until this corner is here. Then I'm going to move this down like thus, move this in like so, and move it in over here. So basically everything that we use to put in 5-layer centers I'm using here, but now I have that extra issue with perspective. So now what goes next over here? So we'll try to find another red. This looks like it might be a contender if I move it like this. Maybe it's this one. So what if I were to move this one out of the way, bring it back to its proper place over here, move it like so, and then bring this down. Aha! Yeah, that works just fine over here. So we might as well fill this one in. This one is going to be another red one, but it's going to be red just to the side of the center one, which could be this over here. So first thing I'm going to do is I have two contenders, this or this. I'll move this out of the way over here and see if this one fits. And yeah, that one fits just fine. So what I'm going to do is this has to come over to here and then move that in. So I'm going to move this whole center across, come across here until that center's in. Okay, then I'm going to move this down. That is in here, so with a little faith that should turn here. And now I'm going to bring this center back like so. Having done that, I see this fits nice. This lines up here and moves in. Okay, so it does take a little patience, but like I say, it does accelerate as you're doing it. So still continuing with my first center. Now what goes where next? Now I didn't really memorize it. I usually don't like to do that. It kind of adds to the challenge. But what's going to come across here is the same bicolor over here. One color, then another color. But I don't think it's going to look like these over here. I think instead it's going to be a piece that joins another color center to this. So this has two colors, but there's going to be a third color with that. So I'm going to find one that looks like this, but actually has the white and red in it, and I think that's supposed to go over here. That's my suspicion. So let's see if we can find that. The dominant color is not going to be any color like what you see here. So red and white right over here. Notice this is red and white over here, but it's green. So let's see if this actually fits. I'm going to turn this down here. And if my suspicion is correct, this will fit down over here. Put it here, and yeah, that fits just fine. And it sort of juxtaposes with this white one over here. So I know this comes into here. Do I put it in there yet? Well, what if I were to try to assemble the rest of this side, which is going to be all white? So let's put white ones that we think belong here. Well, here's a tall white one just underneath this. So maybe this will find a nice home over here. So let's line these up. So I'm going to turn these. Like so. And this I'll turn like thus. Now let's see what happens when I move this guy up. You can see it fits really nicely here. So I'll go ahead and turn this back. This almost feels like a jumble of pieces ready to come apart in your hand, but this is very stable. A very stable puzzle, so this comes across here. Okay, now what I have to do is one more white. Maybe it's this one over here. So I'll move this to the side. Bring it across and bring it down, and yeah, that moves in here nicely. So all I have to do now is turn this twice. 1, 2. If it doesn't turn comfortably one way, turn another way. Okay, so here we have it here. What normally wouldn't take me any time at all here or here, took me a little bit of time with this. Like I say, it has all the appeal of a jigsaw puzzle. But now that I have this, you can see that I'm creating a little bit of order within this chaotic structure. And now it's just a matter of finding the next centers. So this one has red in it, as does this. So I know that these are going to be facing each other if I were to turn it like this. So why don't we find the rest of the reds here? Find the rest of this. And it's going to be patterned pretty much the same way. And yeah, so that does it just fine over there. Turn this back and turn it across. Again, once you get the right alignment, it moves pretty easily. So what's going to come across up here now is just going to be patterned after this, so it's going to be the red one. So a red side that just abuts the side, so it could be any one of these guys. Let's give that a try. One over here, put it down here. Is it this? Probably not, but let's give it a try. Nope. Kind of suspected not. It just wasn't big enough. How about this one? Turn it to the side and turn it down. Now notice, there it is over there. So turn. because I always have something guiding me. If you've ever wondered why I don't consider 5-layer having much in the way of parity, it's because every step of the way I've got something guiding me. I've got something guiding me as to what center is supposed to be, and I've got something guiding me as supposed in terms of what the edges are supposed to be, where the edges are supposed to go. Now you may think, well, there is such thing as parities of edges with 5x5s. I'm going to get to that when we get to that, but you can see that there's not going to be any issues with center parities that we saw with the Strasbourg 4-layer octahedron or the megamorphinx. It's all going to be laid out to me exactly where it needs to be, unless something fell out and you put it in wrong, which sometimes is a possibility. So how about this coming into here? Does that work? Well, let's try it. Bang, yep. Zoom and pow. Easy as that. Okay, let's find the other red that belongs in here, which perhaps is this one. So we'll turn this like so. Of all the 5-layer mods, this is the one that gives me the most challenge in putting together. Turn, so that's good. Turn, and turn, and you can see why. Like I say, it just takes a lot of patience. And now we can just put this in. Turn here and in, so we're good. All right, the next step is the one that goes across here, which is going to be one of these tricolor ones again. And the tricolor one is going to be here. So find the one that's blue and red, which will be a completely different color, dominant color than you've seen. We don't know what it is, but we know it's out there. Right here, and it's going to be yellow. So blue, red, and yellow. What's going to have to be loaded in now are blues. This has to turn over here. That was the missing piece. Now it goes in freely. Okay. So we can see this is lined up here, and as a matter of fact, I've turned this to where these two centers coincide. Okay, now next we might as well do the other red side. Well, there isn't really another red side, but we might as well do this side over here, the orange and the green. 1, 2, here. Move this up. Double turn this and move it back. Okay, so we've got this in, and as you can see, as we turn this in its rightful position, we're creating all the elements of this red side. You can see the center here and this over here, so that all the elements are coming in. So you can see we're starting in this jumble to forge out what might actually resemble a cubic shape. So we have 3 centers, which gives us a pretty good base to go on. Now, why don't we go for this one over here, as we're now working on our whites. So this is already in here, so we just need a solid white one here. And it should be getting easier and easier, so it's one of these two. So we're going to move this into position like so, and see if we can't move this in. Bang, yep. So not only the positioning is getting easier to follow, but actually the movement is, because now I have multiple sides to tell me where to go. The next one after this is these over here, and that's going to be based on this guy here. And this guy is going to come in like probably way up here, yeah, just like this. So why don't we surround this with blues, and now we only have these 2 blues left. There's no other blues that we can use. So it's these 2, and these look like they're already in position. So I'm just going to move this up like so. Bang. Turn it here, and zoom, bring it down. Okay, so now I can move this into place. Can't just move it in without bumping this out, so let's move it across. Carefully move it here. Turn it twice. 1, 2. And move it back, so we're good. Now next we do this. So I know what's on this side is going to be that trifecta, the 2 colors of blue and white with white on both sides. So why don't I start moving those in, and it's this. It's actually orange that's going to be the other color here, but here's a blue and white. It's all going to be whites that we're going to be doing because we've done all of our blues, so let's start moving whites into over here. Here's one that's going to have to move in. So why don't I move this to the bottom? 1, 2. So this moves up, like so. Turn it and move it down. Oftentimes I'm just taking the path of least resistance. Like here, this doesn't really want to comfortably turn this way, but I know it can turn. So I'm just going to turn it all the way around to meet where it's supposed to be. Path of least resistance. It'll still get me there. Now the other white. There's only one other white, so I just have to find it. It's right over here. So let's go ahead and turn this. Once again, path of least resistance. There we go. This makes it over there. Turn it, turn it. Where'd it go? Here it is. And turn it. And now just effortlessly bring it down. Turn this like so. And now bring it up. Boom. Okay, so let's find the center that we were creating, which is right over here. We're right on top of it. And it has to slide in over here. So we turn this 180 degrees from it. Move this down. Find our way to double turn this like so. Snagged a little bit over here. And now turn it up. Okay. So we got it. There's our white side. There's our white center. Our blue, white, red, green is taking shape over here. So now we're down to the last two centers. So you can see some order within this chaos. But now we have this center and we have this center. We have these two. And things should get easier from there. The way to do this, as I do with any 5-layer supercube, you can do it like this as well. It might be even easier to visualize it this way. What I'm going to do first is, this is actually made up of a couple different segments. So here's our center. You've got the center of the center, you've got the edges of the center, and you've got the corners of the center. Now, I solve these the same way that I would do with the same algorithms as a 3x3, solving edges and solving corners. Now, you've seen us do 4x4 type solves, and I'm going to use the same algorithm with those, but I'm going to separate out these here and get these first. So those equivalent edges, if I were to search for that, here's the center and here's the center. These two are my centers. This edge is supposed to be here. These two edges are supposed to be down here. So I'm just going to start solving for one side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for this side first. So I'm going to take my greens and put them where they're supposed to be. And again, I'm just working on the edge portion of my center. So if I were to move this down like this, obviously that doesn't go there. So I'm going to move this back up. Then turn this and try it with this guy over here. Turn it like this. Now I turn it down. I can see this is in here just fine. So I'm going to move this out of the way and turn this up. Okay, what I can do next is I can place this one because I think this one is supposed to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this like so. Move it down. Now I bumped out the other orange one, which is here, so I'm going to turn it this way because this is the only other orange, and I can maybe hedge my bets that maybe that's supposed to come over here. So then I turn it up, and bang, so that works well over here. This is fine over here. So now I have to put the other green one, which is here. So this will come up. This will come up over here, which fits in nicely over there. Here's the green here, so I'm going to turn this in line, path of least resistance, and bring this down. Now, when solving the last two centers, My goal here is to do each center individually, each component individually. So I'm going to put the edges in the last two centers, then the corners in the last two centers, because, remember, I have to make sure that I don't put myself in a situation where I can only do a 2 cycle, because that's an odd number swap, which means it would be impossible to do. So moving up to here, what I see is these two are in and these two are out. So I'm going to stick with my plan on how I deal with this kind of a situation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these to where they're within 180 degrees of where they're supposed to be. Either they're in or they're 180 degrees of where they got to be. So if I move this, say over here, these two need to swap. If this can come here and this can come here, it will be done, right? And I could do an adjacent edge swap, which you see me do with the cuboids. But if I do that, I know that what's going to happen is that these two will indeed swap, but this will rotate 180 degrees, which would be okay because this will be swapped, this will stay where it is, this will rotate 180 degrees. So these will still be within 180 degrees of where they're supposed to be. Now when I do that, I'm going to cause placement issue with this. These two are going to be swapped here. Now again, I'm not calling that parity anymore. I'm calling that placement issues because it's not truly parity. I'm not breaking my strategy of doing odd layered strategy basically. So when that happens, I can do any number of edge swaps. I can do a opposite edge swap. Everything will stay 180 degrees, but 2 will be in and 2 will be out. So let me show you what I mean. Holding it over here, this is basically going to be the familiar middle edge swap, and that's going to be 2R. Move this back. I don't have to. U, 2R, U, 2R, to U. It's a leap of faith here, isn't it? 2R, 2U, 2R, U, 2R, UI, and 2R. Okay, so sure enough, everything that I said would happen happened. These guys did swap, but this rotated 180 degrees, but this needs to be here, 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 and I created placement issues on either side. Doing an opposite edge swap, these two will swap, this will rotate, these guys will be in, so this collectively will rotate 180 degrees, but at least these will be in. And that's going to be opposite edge swap, to R, to U, to R, to U, and finally 2R to U. Okay, as promised, we fixed this scary situation, whoops, here, and we did as I predicted. This is in and this is in. Now the question is, these guys, how am I going to get these guys in? Am I caught in a trap? And the answer is no. There is an algorithm that'll flip this without flipping these guys over here. I'm going to move it to the side here, and the algorithm that I'm going to do to cause these two to flip without making these guys flip is going to be R to U, R to U, R to U, and R to U, R. Now you've seen me do this with the barrel cube to kind of get out of a sticky situation. And that's exactly what this had me do. This is in, 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 oops, this is in, this is in, this is in, and this is in. So basically I have the edge portions of my last two centers. So now the next step after this is the corner portions. And that algorithm that I'll use is the one that'll move this to here, this to here, this to here, and this to here. So basically, among this is the only one that's cycling. This one moves here, and this one moves here, and this one moves here. So it's like it's a 3 cycle, which is still an even number of swaps. When you look at the thing in its totality, it's basically 2 swaps moving 3 things. And what my technique is with this is I want to get one whole side on each side, because if I'm not going to move anything down here, I'll get one whole side here, and then maybe 3 sides here, and do a finish off with this 3 cycle. So I already have this over here. This can come down to here very nicely, so that's what I'm going to 3 cycle. What I'm going to do is move this to here. First I'm going to make sure that we're oriented correctly. I'm going to move this here. So what's going to happen is that, move this over here. Yeah, so this will come down here and be in, this will come here, and this will come here, and I think this may be where this needs to be. And that algorithm is going to be R UI LI U RI UI L, and then bring it on back to U. Okay, so what that actually did is that move that to here. I really wanted it here, so I'm going to do it one more time. That one more time will place this correctly, and will probably place this correctly, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we have this in. This actually appears to need to be over here, but I can still potentially salvage this by putting this into here. So I'm going to turn this over here and turn this over here. So this will come to here. Unfortunately, this will be knocked out, but that's okay. At the end of this, this all should be in. So forward. And just to be sure that what I'm doing is correct, let me just position this, and we see, yeah, so that's where it's supposed to be. Now, alternatively, if I want to keep this where it is, and I want to keep this as 1, what I could do is move this on top, move this over here, and then move this up here. That way, this maintains, these pieces will all maintain their position. This will come here, this will come here, and this will come here. So let's do that. So forward, forward, back, bang, zoom, zoom, pow, and splat. So that's looking good over here. So everything is in except this one. So I'm going to keep this one on top, this part on top, and move this in like so. So this is ready to 3 cycle to its heart's content. This will be the last thing that will come into here, so I don't want that in there yet. Does this come to here? Well, let's check it out. Yeah, so let's do that algorithm again. This will move up to here. Well, if I do it twice, there's going to be trouble, because this will be completely corrected, and I'll have to 2 cycle these. So that's not going to work. What I'm going to do is this needs to find its way to here. So I'm going to move this up and then do the proper changing to bring this down, say, over to here where it's supposed to be. Forward. Bang. Bang. Zoom. Zoom, pow, and splat. Okay, now actually my goal here is to take this and to move this where it's supposed to be down here, which I believe is right here. Forward, back, back, bang, bang, zoom, and pow. Okay, so we're good over here. Alright, now what I want to do is I have all these in, I just need to 3-cycle these guys, and this should work out pretty well. Okay, so in one fell swoop, this will come over here and be solved, this will come over here and be solved, this will come over here and be solved. So let's see. Forward, bang, bang, zoom, pow, splat, and path of least resistance. Bang. Okay, so we got it. Last 2 centers, and just for the sake of illustration, let's go ahead and move these into place. And generally what I find with this puzzle is once I have the centers within proximities of each other, the movement gets a lot easier. So now you can see it here. So basically this looks like a smashed cube. You can see the cubic portion coming out, and now it's a question of edge placement from here.